everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Haley Cairo. So I am the founder of May Movement, an empowering lifestyle brand where we encourage you guys to better yourselves so that way you guys can better others. So before I get into the video, make sure you guys click that subscribe button so you're notified for when I post new videos, and then follow on social because we have a really good time over there. We've got a great community and I share some more like behind the scenes stuff, some recipes, workouts, things like that. So today I am talking about my eating disorder. This is something I've kind of touched on before, but never really like went into depth about. So I mentioned in my last video that I want to just be more personal with you guys this year to get to know me better. This new series is going to really kind of do that and allow us to create some more conversation and a bigger community. I feel like sharing my story, if you can relate to it, maybe it'll help you feel a little bit better that you're not alone and we can just be there for each other. All right, I'm gonna use photos and stuff to help like dictate this story. Growing up, I was a really active kid. I grew up at the beach and we were always out running around. My cousins, like from a young age, would just take me everywhere. We had the boats, we would go skiing, like water skiing and surfing and do all this stuff. And like we lived right next to a state park and we were just very active. And then we moved to a house when I was 5 years old. It was this ranch house on like 2 acres. I was always outside playing. Like I just was a really active child. And then 2001, my mom, she flatlined and ended up having a couple different neurological diseases because we found out I'm gonna butcher this, Aspergillus penicillin or something like that. Basically, it was high levels of toxic mold in our home. By this time, my brother was about 2 and he was always really sick. He had super dark circles all the time. His allergies were terrible and I was sick all the time. My mom had to stop working and my dad had to run their company alone and raise 2 really small children because my mom was sick a lot or like in and out of the hospital. So from about like 6 years old to about 10 years old was kind of when I became like a chubby kid. I got teased a lot for it. I kind of felt insecure around my cousins and my friends because I did sports with all of them. We had like co-ed teams and stuff and I was always just like the chunky kid. Moving into middle school, I remember I started to really notice it and like feel insecure about it, and we started having school dances and you had to have outfits, and that was when kids started shopping at like Aeropostale and American Eagle and Abercrombie, and I remember like wanting so badly to fit into Abercrombie clothes and like I couldn't, and I remember it just like really upset me. Also, all of my friends were twigs and I was just like the oddball out, and I like never felt pretty and I knew that boys weren't gonna like me, or that was like what I was telling myself. 7th grade, I switched schools. I immediately had a great group of friends and was like really happy there. I was still insecure about my weight at the time, but I think I was just overall a little bit happier because like my lifestyle was better and I played sports for this school, so I was like still an active kid. I just didn't really know what to feed my body. And I guess I should preference the reason that I gained weight initially was not only because I was sick all the time so I wasn't as active, but because my dad was basically working and taking care of kids. We did a lot of like frozen foods and takeout and things that just weren't very nutrient dense. So fast forward to 10th grade year, I was still like chunkier, but I kind of was like coming into my body a little bit more, I guess, like with puberty and everything, and it was when I started wearing makeup and learning how to straighten my hair. So I definitely felt and looked more feminine, and so even though I was still heavy set, I started to feel prettier. And I remember 10th grade was the first time where a boy, well, that's not true because in middle school I had a boyfriend. That was like the first time where I started to really feel pretty, and people would like make comments, and like I remember I went to this dance, I'll put a picture here. I had this like purple sparkly dress, and I remember everybody just being like, wow, Haley, you look so pretty. And like I felt pretty, but like I still would have liked to have been healthier and thinner. I remember from like freshman year on, I had tried like South Beach diet and all this stuff, but I still didn't understand how nutrition worked or how calories worked. So my junior year of high school was when I had my first high school boyfriend, sort of. Basically, to make a long story short, I realized that I really liked my best friend, and I knew that he kind of liked me, but he really wasn't explaining it, and another one of our friends really liked me too. And I kind of had a crush on him because he was the one giving me attention, and we had built this really great friendship over the course of the summer, and we were just like best friends, so we started to have feelings for each other. But I knew that I really didn't want to date, and I think I was a little confused and just liking the fact that I had attention. So from that September until January, I had dealt with a lot of weird things. This one boy was just obsessed with me. I tried to get away. There was a lot of back and forth drama of me being like, no, I can't date and all this stuff, and then like me getting my license and going out and getting in trouble because I'd come home too late because I'd be hanging out with him, or like all this stuff that just like wasn't me. I was feeling very anxious. It was the first time I was dealing with anxiety. That fall, this boy also flipped his car right in front of me, and I had really bad post-traumatic after that. I started dealing with, him spreading rumors about me because I wouldn't date him. And I just remember like people saying things to me, and I would be like, no, this isn't true. None of this is happening. I was dealing with a lot of crazy stuff. I lost a lot of friends that year. I was getting bullied aimlessly, and it was a really hard time. I actually don't remember a whole lot of it because there was some other like trauma involved, and I have cognitive memory loss from that, but I'll get into that later. So January, we started taking our midterms, and I remember reading a Self magazine, feeling like I needed an outlet and an escape, and that was when I started doing home workouts upstairs in my bedroom. Then I found Tone It Up, and I was hooked. From January until April, there was a dramatic difference. I had lost quite a bit of weight. The gym became my obsession, my escape. I wasn't very social anymore because I always had to work out. I was constantly having scheduled meals. I couldn't eat past 6 p.m. I didn't eat a whole lot. And I just remember that period of time, it seemed okay because people were really proud of me, and some of those scarier habits didn't seem as prevalent yet. Then we had prom that year. This prom in particular, I think was probably the most beautiful I ever felt, because it was kind of like I don't want to sound so cheesy, but it was like a debut for me. I had worked really, really hard to get here in a short amount of time, and I just felt really great, and it was a really great time. And at this time, I had a really great relationship with one of my friends at this point who really helped me get through some of the other stuff that I was dealing with, and was kind of like my other outlet, I guess. He ended up asking me out that night at prom, and we dated until, actually, we dated a long time now that I think about it. So we dated, he was a senior, I was a junior, and that summer I moved back down to the beach to live with my family and work at the local surf shop down there. I was also working on my college portfolio to get into art school, which was like making me very stressed out. And again, this was the first time I had anxiety, and my way of dealing with it was be really strict with my food and to work out. So fast forward to senior year, I was no longer with my boyfriend, and I just remember coming back and everybody being like, wow, you are skinny. And to me, I didn't notice it, you know what I mean? Like, I just was like, I look great, I'm so fit, I'm the epitome of health. Like, I don't need this, I don't need that, I train like this, blah, blah, blah. So senior year was very odd for me. My friendships were kind of getting weird again, and then Christmas time rolls around, and I remember just working on my art portfolio until like the wee hours of the night, and then not sleeping. And then I got into this pattern of like going to bed at like 11 and getting up at 2, and then going to bed at 11 and getting up at 2 again, and it became a thing. I go back to school after winter break, and I made it one day. I remember going back and being like, I've just got to get through this day and I'll be fine. So I made it one day. We went back on a Thursday, and then we had Friday. Now Fridays we had chapel in the morning, and we could go in a little bit late if we needed to. I remember feeling so anxious about the fact that I didn't sleep and that I had all this work to be done for my art portfolio, and it wasn't done. I remember taking Xanax. Now these Xanax are prescriptions for someone else, and the dose was way too high. Now I'm almost 5'7". I weighed 110 pounds. So I passed out in the hallway at my school. My driver's ed teacher found me, and a whole nother story, but he told me to like wake up and go home. Now I'm not sure if this is going to be two different videos, because the insomnia part of this story is like a completely different thing than the eating disorder part. So I'm not really sure how I'm editing this. I guess we're going to figure it out. So the rest of my senior year, I actually lived at home and worked and did all my schoolwork from home. If you guys want a different video all about like how I dealt with that, like that part of my life, I'd be glad to do a separate video on it, just because it is more in depth. There was a lot of like hospital visits and therapy stuff and all this jazz that goes into it. So I graduated high school, and then the next couple of years I was still really thin, but had started incorporating other foods and stuff, because my pediatrician, I had my last doctor's appointment because I was turning 18, and he, I guess, had talked to my mom without me there and made a doctor's appointment at the hospital for, I guess I didn't understand it, but it was a behavioral health appointment. Behavioral health, because I had a eating disorder. To put into perspective how I ate the same thing every single day. I had to eat at a certain time, and I couldn't eat past 6. I remember traveling to Massachusetts with my mom, bringing bags of my own food. We didn't have a fridge, so we bought ice and filled the bathtub with ice so I could keep my food. I remember going on New York trips, because this was also when I started my movement. Like, all of this stuff happened at the same time. My senior year was absolutely crazy. All that stuff with the YouTubers when I went to IMATS and the bracelets went viral was all this year. Meeting Ingrid Nielsen and like Fleur and Nikki and all. This was all happening when I was like super sick. And I say sick because I was mentally mentally sick, but I was also physically sick because I started having all types of neurological issues, memory loss, hair loss, irritability, mood swings. I mean, there was a lot going on. So I know the whole insomnia part and the eating disorder, they're like two different stories, so I'm trying not to talk about the insomnia thing too much. But so after senior year, the next couple of years after I'd had that doctor's appointment, I think the insomnia almost saved me from my eating disorder because I'd get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and eat this huge breakfast, fall back to sleep, and then be hungry again. So I think my caloric intake over time just became more, and when you're not sleeping, you're not making the best decisions. Like, you're just, that's how it is. So my rigidness kind of dropped a little bit. I moved into an apartment after senior year, and I remember eating a little bit more flexible. I'd found some foods that I really liked that weren't necessarily like plain, boring, clean foods. So I was still strict, but definitely nowhere near where I was my senior year. This was also when I started dating my previous boyfriend. I feel like I'm talking a lot about boyfriends. Like, I had like a ton of boyfriends, and I've only really ever had like 2 other than Kyle. And we were really into fitness. That was how we met. So I think just being around him, and like I got into CrossFit with him, and like I started lifting more, and I just ate more. So over time, I just was not so skinny anymore. As crazy as that relationship was, there were a lot of benefits to the fact that we had a great group of friends who were into fitness things, and we did fitness things together. We did triathlons and Spartan races, CrossFit competitions. We were always competing with each other, going on trail runs. Like, we were so active, and like then we would go out and have a meal together. So I would, you know, eat out, and like had to be more flexible. Now I got to a point where I felt not super comfortable anymore, and what I perceived as fat was like a little bit of fat, but I was also gaining muscle. I just wasn't used to being like larger again. Now looking back on it, I was still really small compared to myself now, fat and muscle. But I found out about macros and flexible dieting, got my first coach, did a cut with him, and got to about here. Felt amazing just realizing how to do this, understanding about nutrition and really like how calories in versus calories out and all the biochemistry of it. That was a lot of words. But basically, flexible dieting saved my life because it allowed me to have freedom to go out and enjoy food. It allowed me to not give a crap about when I ate or necessarily what the food was if I needed to, like, you know, make something fit in my macros that wasn't bro food. So flexible dieting really did save me from my rigid ways. I had orthorexia, which is basically where you fear getting fat, so you're like really strict on everything. Fast forward again, and I got cheated on. Woohoo! At this time, it was February, it was Super Bowl night, and the next day when I found out, I just remember it was a really hard time. I remember that next week my family left for Maine. We had our annual snowboard trip, and I remember I was not feeling great about myself. I definitely was eating things I shouldn't have eaten, and I probably put on about 10 pounds over the course of that year. And then I wasn't working with my coach anymore because I thought I was maintaining. And I started working with him again December of 2015, right when I met Kyle. And then that was the leanest I'd ever gotten. Like, that summer I was shredded. And I learned something every time I do a cut and a bulk phase or a maintenance phase. I truly believe that flexible dieting is such an amazing way to get someone to understand how food and nutrition work and like how your body works, because it's not like a certain food's not going to make you thin, a certain food's not going to make you fat. It's really like amounts of foods, and every calorie and macronutrient plays a part. So after that, I started working with a different coach due to some reasons with my other coach. This coach really did not know how to work with me properly. I'm not going to bash him or whatever, but basically from last January until now, I put on about 30 pounds, 35, almost 40. I don't know, 30 to 40 pounds. Crazy. This was like destroying my mental health state. Like, last year was my most depressed year I've had in a long time. It really affected everything that I did. And there's a bright side to this. I learned a lot about myself. I also realized now what I wouldn't do again, and to trust my instincts more, because I knew right away that jumping my calories like 1,000 per day was not good. Don't do that. So for 2018, I am doing a health and fitness goals video, which I will have linked, or I already did it so you guys can see that. But I am going to be working with a new coach. I'm excited. I know it's going to be a journey and a battle, but if you guys are going through this, I commend you. We got this. It's going to be okay. Glad that I shared this story with you guys, because I feel like I'm sure some of you have been in similar situations. I don't know if it's going to help anybody, but if you can relate, you know, and you have gotten through it, or if you've overcome it, That's awesome. I'm super happy for you. I'm really glad that I've overcome the rigidness, and that's a blessing. But now I just need to kind of tighten it back up again and figure out how to have a healthy balance with it. So that was my story. That's my little health and fitness story for you guys. And well, I know that this was like totally different than my normal videos, but I hope you guys want to stick around for more content. So hit that subscribe button and follow along on social media, especially my Hales Health account where you guys can see my workouts, my recipes, and things like that. But as always, I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.